So this is Mercy TV, the 15th of May.
How are you?
Welcome to the Mercy Weekly Meeting. This purpose of this meeting is to network folks on the issues that they go through when in the medical cannabis community. That is helping folks get their cards, to finding medicine now, to finding a grower or to getting to grow themselves in the long term, best methods on medicating, changes and so forth that come along as folks try to get medical cannabis for themselves or someone they care about. This here is the Mercy Weekly Meeting. We hold it every Wednesday from 7 to 9ish at 1745 Capitol Street Northeast. We're right behind the Graber Insurance Building. It's a one-story reddish brick here on Capitol Street. It's about 3 blocks down from the Arsenic Circle, or former Arsenic Circle restaurant there. And folks come here to get information, but mostly to network with other individuals who have gone through the same thing or going through. This is a good time and place for us to match folks up with a grower. And just for chuckles, take a little query. Are there any growers here this evening? Oh, we have one. Okay, two. And is there any patients looking for growers?
I'm kind of looking for growers as
Oh,
well.
okay.
I've got one plant right now.
Okay.
That's going to be done in about 4 to 6 weeks. I just came down from Washington, so I had to go through the process again of getting a license. So
Yeah.
it's been interesting doing the process, but I've got one plant. But in the meantime, I'm out. I'm broke, and I'm about ready to lose my unemployment. Lost my job because I became a medical patient. And
Oh.
so yeah, that was fun. They tried to cover it up, saying my insurance had run out of my FMLA insurance, and they said you can resign or you can get fired and never come back. And so instead of tarnish my work record, I resigned with their little things in there, and I took the hit. But unemployment let me get unemployment, obviously, to try and help out until I could get into another job. But before I got my unemployment, they made me get verified by a doctor after I got my Washington license at the time, and really had to release me back to full-time work with my primary care doctor before I could go back and get my unemployment. So it's been a long process, but I'm happy that everything's gone through. I feel so much better, you know. But yeah, until then I am looking for another grower to
Okay.
help out.
So you've already got your card here in Oregon. You're not looking to get your card.
No,
Okay.
I'm
Good.
just looking for someone that would grow.
So you put yourself down as your grower for the
I
time
did
being,
put for the time being,
Yeah.
yes.
and you have a plant at some
At the
place,
address,
so there.
yes.
And is it big enough for your long-term growing?
Can you make babies off of it?
Oh yes, I could. Definitely, I could clone that.
Okay, but your long-term, do you have enough space for a grow there?
I do not. I'm kind of actually staying with family, and they're kind of letting me finish my grow, and I can't afterwards.
This one plant, though, is pretty
It's-
much all they're gonna.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the one-time thing.
So we need a place then,
A place.
at the least. It sounds like.
Right.
Yeah. And somebody who has some information, resources, probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get you in with the program here. We have the board there in the office that we can post the information on. Mostly we get the information down, talk with folks that come in, say they're looking for a patient to grow for during the week. Mostly it's coming here to the Wednesday night meetings. There's not a big grower selection here, although you can speak with the other growers and talk about the parameters that of your situation. how much support can you give to the grower, and what are your needs?
Right.
So.
I have the stuff to do it. I just have nowhere to do it after this is done. So that's kind of my part. I've got, you know, everything I need for it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, usually folks need everything. Just the space is
Yeah, all I need is a space.
not the norm.
No.
But that's good, because that's different than needing, I mean, because we did chat with somebody here recently. They said they had some land. So,
That would be awesome.
you know, maybe that would work out if that's...
That would be way awesome.
So networking these folks together is what we do here. We're a nonprofit registered with the state of Oregon. We do not have our 501c3. I don't know if folks read about the nonsense with the Tea Party, but what they went through was mild when we applied for our 501c3 nonprofit. We were, of course, denied, and not having the several $1,000s it was going to take to start the legal proceedings to contest it, we decided to hold off for the time being.
Well, what did you mean by the number that you just said?
The 501c3,
Yes, what is that?
that's a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to providing a public service in terms of education or information regarding something of value to the community.
And that you were denied this?
Yes, we were denied the 501c3 status, so that we can't, I mean, that's one of the things that, for example, if you're applying for grants, you need to have that, some federal status.
Right.
And also, folks can take it off, deduct it off their taxes, a donation to us as a 501c3. So,
Right.
but none of that can do, because we were, as I said, denied. So what that means is we file a corporate return for our organization with the feds, and we pay taxes as a corporation, as it were. But with the state, we file a nonprofit tax return. We fill out a 990 nonprofit federal tax return and give it to the state, because that breaks down your how your expenses go and all that fun stuff. Whereas the corporate return that we send to the feds, the IRS, doesn't break it down properly or show that information to it. So that's our situation there, and it was denied because it was marijuana. Everything that we did regarding cannabis or marijuana was illegal. Even handing out state legal forms and instructing people on how to fill out the card, just that simple basic stuff was illegal, because consuming cannabis is a crime, is a federal crime still. So we were conspiring to help you commit a crime by following the state legal forms and all. So I had quite an argument with them on that, just that one, and was looking forward to a merry court battle over it. But the rest of the things that we did, I mean, the helping people to grow was really going to be right off the charts. So that was going to be a toughie.
I was going to say, next time you try that battle around, and they give it to you, you might want to say, well, it's also funny that the federal government owns both the patent on cannabis,
Right.
having medical and not having medical. So which is it?
Right. So we were basically going to have to go and prove that, I mean, deal with the pot war in the process of getting our 501c3. We're basically going to have to, you know,
Fight the fight.
yeah, fight that whole battle, you know.
It will probably be easier if Oregon elects to make pot legal like Washington did.
Right, yeah.
But I think the big issue on that one too is don't do the law like Washington. Washington gave them a really crap end of deal, and they're going to get hurt in the process thereof. The pockets of the people that need the help. It's really going to dig deep. I think that's really in turn they made it so they're really going to dig deep if you need that medication. You know.
Well, right now the
Cost money.
Cost money.
the
Yep.
Washington State medical program remains unchanged due to the legalization law,
Right.
and hopefully the capitalism that's currently reigning or trying to reign
Right.
won't affect the medical cannabis side.
Okay.
I think that's going to remain independent of the.
Hopefully the state will honor the sunset clause that's coming up.
Well, that's ours. We're talking Washington State here. So.
Washington.
Now,
They're a little different.
the real deal is going to be when hemp is happening. That's the action. That's going to be the backbreaker for prohibition,
Right.
in my opinion. The other thing that's really going to make a difference is when the personal grow issue is resolved successfully in Washington State to how Colorado's doing it. By having individuals growing, that's game over for prohibition, because now they really can't go stomping on every
Right.
Joe and Jane citizen.
Right.
They won't have the state goon squad to help them with that. And,
Right.
in fact, the state's going to have a lot more money in standing with these folks and saying, no, you can't. Not only are we not going to give you our tanks and guns and everything, our people to go round these folks up with. In fact, if you can't come in here. We're not going to allow, you to come in. Period. This is our jurisdiction. Booger off. So.
Right.
Even. But that'd be nice. It's going to be some time, I think, before we see that.
Right.
And an attorney general, a state's attorney general, with a true American, and standing up for those states' rights all along the board. So, in the meantime, though, we watched the Washington State try to help them out. There's some networking going on between the groups there, sharing what folks doing. Mostly like when we do hemp fests and stuff. The Seattle Hemp Fest is coming up. Yeah.
How about what is the state legislature doing about the 281?
Yeah, we've got a number of bills going on here in Oregon State, including a legalization bill, which is House Bill 3371 for folks out there in TV land. These folks here will be getting their Oregon Cannabis Connection, which has all the latest information in it, and whatever Mercy newsletters we have here, which will also steer them to our website, mercycenters.org, which has links to not just the state stuff, but the federal stuff that's happening. And again, for that, there's about a half dozen bills in the U.S. Congress that folks want to contact their representatives on, including 2 of them involving medical, 2 for legalization. There's a hemp one out there, and I think there's one that's the sentence reduction, getting rid of the mandatory minimums, and some other common sense justice issues. But our prime issue, the bill that we're most excited about, the one we can make the most difference on, is Senate Bill 281, which is to add post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program. Currently, folks who utilize cannabis for their PTSD here in Oregon must hope that they have another qualifying condition. For example, they have pain, usually related to the PTSD, but they don't use the cannabis so much for the pain as for their PTSD. Well, we work with them to get documentation of the pain and get them to a specialist and get them that card so they can use that cannabis. Also, folks who suffer from nausea for medication for PTSD will find that that's a qualifying condition or symptom in this case here. But for those folks that aren't fortunate enough to suffer from pain and nausea, just have that PTSD to go, they're forced to, utilize their affirmative defenses, either that or, do without, try to self-medicate with all kinds of alternatives. And as folks have attended our hearings and stuff, our veterans are dying at an atrocious rate. They've got a higher death rate here, by suicide, than in combat, where they served in Afghanistan and Iraq, which is horrible, folks. So, and I'm afraid that rate has been exacerbated by the medications that they are allowed to take for it, which is Xanax and Paxil and others that have a marginal good, do not include a quality of life, and as we say, some cases have a suicidality, as they say, or high suicide rate to them. So cannabis is a alternative that our veterans in just one group definitely need as a matter of life or death. Other folks suffer from, other than combat, other than veterans, suffer from PTSD, and so it's a no-brainer, really. Yet we need everybody to call their representative, call their legislators, and make sure this happens, because we've had a lot of opposition from the prohibitionists. We had a lot of reefer madness, in fact, pretty much all reefer madness. So that's the good news. It's still progressing and hasn't had any of the changes to it that's likely to make sure it doesn't go through. But again, we need everybody, we need all hands on deck for this to Senate Bill 281 to add PTSD to the OMMP to pass, to make happen. Currently, it's before the House Health Care Committee, and there was a hearing for that today. PK and myself were there, and we'll get that video up on YouTube very shortly for folks to see all the points and counterpoints that were made. The only sour note in the proceedings was that there was an amendment proposed to it by Representative Olson, and Representative Olson wanted a work group formed as a result of this bill to deal with all the issues and problems with the medical marijuana program. It's interesting that Representative Olson only sees problems with the medical marijuana program. And we hope that the Senate Bill 281 to add PTSD is not going to be held up to start some open-ended surgery on the program. It's something that folks need, and they need today. They need it now. A lot of folks out there, as we said, using cannabis for their PTSD. They're either with the program under another condition. They're using it on the black market and taking their risks, and we should stop wasting resources making war on these folks. And as we said, there's also a couple of other bills out there, so bang away at your representative for all the cannabis law reform happening here in Oregon. And we have a few more folks here, so we'll reiterate our helping to network folks together. So patients looking for growers, any patients looking for growers, a couple more. Any grow experience, any growers. Okay, so I want to make sure that we talk a little bit.
Do you have space to make a grow?
Yeah. I just want to know what I need and.
Okay.
And they want to talk to you after the
Right.
meeting.
So for the folks that definitely know that they're gonna need a grower, they don't have the space, it's not gonna work out their apartment, what have you. The two parameters you're most concerned with is, again, support, usually in terms of financial that the grower is going to be expecting, and what your needs are. The medicine, quality, how much, and any other specifics or parameters. You know, the grower usually is going to deliver the medicine all cured and processed and everything else. If the patient needs further assistance, like baked goods or something like that, generally, for the same reasons the patient can't have the garden there, they generally can't make butter at the same place either, because of the smell from it. Although it's kind of like you're making grass soup or something like that. So maybe it's not an issue. But if you need the grower to be a part of that also, you want to make sure of that in the relationship.
Well, wouldn't your caretaker or your caregiver in the process may take care of that?
That's a possibility. The folks should be aware, not everyone is, that the form, the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program application form has 3 slots on it, one for a grower, one for a caregiver, and one for the patient. So 3 people can be involved with the patient's getting and consuming their medicine. So the patient designates someone to be their caregiver. This is usually someone that helps them with the medicating process or helps them in general. Someone who goes and gets it and deals with the preparation processes, usually enrolling, filling their medical marijuana delivery device, depending on the folks' disabilities and so forth. Or again, on their condition, that they may not be able to make the stuff at their place. The caregiver can make it at their residence. And then the third person that can be involved is the grower. This is someone who grows, who maintains the garden, has it at their residence, and so forth. All 3 parties have a card. There's a card issued for all 3, I believe. And all 3 are allowed to possess cannabis. The caregiver is allowed to be in the garden and participate and help in the garden too. So, and as well as the patient. It's not like only the grower can touch the garden and be involved with that process.
Can a person be all 3?
Yes, and that's what usually they're doing. There's a bill going through to eliminate the requirement to put down yourself as the grower when you don't have a garden, or to say that there is one. And we'll see if that comes through. That would help some folks.
My concern is, what are the risks in being a grower? The legal risk that we would lose our home or that sort of thing.
The state isn't messing with folks a lot, except for the folks in Southern Oregon with very large gardens. There's a chap down there had a number of growers on his land and so forth. So that's the only ones that the states are getting involved in. And feds, there's an occasional case of a fed stumbling over somebody and making a big deal of it. So legally, I mean, within the state, within your limits, you're legal. So if any local law enforcement come by insisting they got a complaint or something of that nature, or they have a warrant or what have you, and if you're within limits, then there's nothing that really they can do. So
you would ask for, do you have a search warrant? The first words out of your mouth that they were asked when you...
It would depend on the circumstances. If they try to knock and talk, then it's up to you to gauge the situation and say, I mean, if you're within limits, sure. As a rule, make them get a warrant. They may describe what what brought them to your door, and it's okay. Well, I didn't know that that window was open in the back. And the school, 2 stories up, at the right time, you could see that, okay, well, make sure that's closed or build a fence up or something there, you know. It would depend on the circumstances that bring them, so.
What do you feel that the percentage is that you would not have any problems? Do you think it's like 75% or?
Oh, yeah, see, there's 50,000 card holders.
Right now?
I'd say we've had a dozen raids we know of. Let's multiply that, you know, for ones we don't know. That's 25 out of 50,000. So the numbers are actually pretty small, pretty low percentage.
And are the raids usually the people who have not, don't have a grower's card, or they're selling?
Well, it was a large grow. It came to a grow that came to somebody's attention under some circumstance. Folks growing indoors, if you've got, you talk about your light and smell disciplines. If you have it at a close place and the lights are on at night, you've got the light shining out of the various points. And from the black market days, they would learn to go out and seal all those up so that didn't show, because it's almost like a beacon, you know, hey, what's that like in there, kind of thing.
So in other words, if you're not a nuisance, you're pretty safe.
Yeah.
As long as you stay within the limits of the law.
Right. Yeah, and all that, and so that's law enforcement. You have a bigger concern with criminals, kids. One of the aspect of the drug war and all that is that it's worth a lot of money and stuff, and they keep proclaiming about the really potent pot, so the kids really want to get their hands on it. Boy, oh, we can really party now, and it's, you know, no.
Yeah, okay.
So we've had some incidences where kids within your family will tell others, and and the word will get out at the high school or something, and then all of a sudden they're breaking in at some time when they're supposed to be away or something. And,
Gotcha.
and then local law enforcement isn't always your best friend there, depending on where you're growing. Mostly in the southern, you know, rural counties, you know, their response will be less than fruitful. You know, trying to get your medicine back, for example, from the thing. So, you know, practice the same disciplines as you would like to just not be a nuisance. You know, keep it sealed up, keep the earning, loose lips sink ships, don't really advertise it. You know, it's a need-to-know basis. All those things that folks generally practice as a rule. Know your rights, yeah, keep you within your limits. Yeah, if it's a clear, you know, hassle, if law enforcement comes to the door or something, make them go get a warrant. Keep our numbers here, you know, if it comes, you know, if they do, I mean, definitely call an attorney, one of the normal attorneys, and, you know, somebody, you know, and because one of the things we do also then with folks that are hassled is try to get folks to go to their hearings, you know,
We do have an attorney.
Mm-hmm. Well, mostly, you know, connected with the legal resources to advise you of your rights and maybe go with you for whatever hearings, proceedings that you know, like child issues. Some folks have that, you know, their child somehow says something at school about their medical cannabis being there, and all of a sudden you got the law enforcement knocking on the door. And again, okay, well, here's the drill. Here's what the rules and regs are, you know, again.
Talking about children.
Nice to have an attorney, though, hey, okay, well, I'm calling in my attorney now. That really gets CPS's attention.
Is there a specified distance to be from the school
Mm-hmm.
that you're growing? Is there any kind of legal distance that's required?
No, not yet. That's one of the things they're trying to change.
I thought it was 500 feet or yards away.
They're trying to apply this 1,000 feet within a school, but the only time that has really been an issue, the thing you need to concern yourself with is public view, outside of public view. So the case that comes to mind is a school that was a 2-story, so the garden there, the 1-story garden, could be seen down into it there. Also gardens where the plants go above the fence height, 10 higher is there. Okay, well that top part is off. And your neighbors, they're 2-story, boom, into there. Well, they can see it. And you want to eliminate
apartment
things.
house a block away that's above you.
Yeah, apartments, anything that can see down in there.
Yeah,
It's,
we don't have any apartments. We have a wooded area. We're about 1,200, 1,300 feet
Yeah.
from a school.
right,
There's a fence, and then there's a wooded area
Right.
between us and that.
secluded, and there's no trails or
No,
areas for
no
them to come
trails.
by and see and stuff there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I wouldn't worry about it. And you don't have no wild parties either.
No.
Outdoors
Pretty
there,
far from me.
unless some travel through stumble across it, their biggest concern would probably be deer. So
We have those.
Yeah.
they'll
They like that?
take
Yeah,
a
yeah.
nibble or two.
That's
So-
where Ivy soap comes in. You would put that in a soup sock, if you know what that is.
Soup sock?
Yeah, that's where you would put your spices and be your attitude in your soup.
Okay,
So you would take one of those, put flakes of Ivy soap in there, wet cotton balls, hang that in each corner of the garden where the wind can blow through it. Always keep the ball moist. So when the wind blows through that, it's putting, and then you would rinse the bud off and
I could use that around our roses too.
Yeah.
garden.
So that's a good rule of thumb. Pretty much all the things that you do horticulturally for bugs, molds, critters of all kinds, sizes and shape, your pets, those things will apply across the board. So stuff, whatever you use for your house plants, you can use for the cannabis. There. Whatever you use for your tomatoes, cannabis. In fact, that's a good.
Except some of the Miracle Grow substance I heard would change your plant, your cannabis plant.
Really, the Miracle Grow, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
But
It
I
is
hear
not
they're,
good.
what?
It is not good.
Yeah.
Well, I think you want to get the stuff that's for the garden, for like eating vegetable stuff, right?
I just heard Miracle Grow plant food.
All right. I guess you
was a
have to watch out
no-no.
for those hormones all over the place there.
Yeah.
So, but on the tomatoes, because for the folks that are going to you at least want to try to grow yourselves there, you're going to need to go to the grow light store, the nursery and stuff, and get your grow equipment and supplies and stuff. And you're going to want to talk tomatoes, because you're not able to talk cannabis, marijuana here. Same with going to the smoke shop to get your medical cannabis delivery devices. You want to talk in terms of water pipes instead of bongs, you know, and some places actually have a little translation
Tobacco.
chart up there. Talk tobacco, yeah, and stuff. So, or Scotch broom, or some of the other herbal medications that are you can either smoked or used as aromatherapy.
So what are the dispensaries up in Portland? Marijuana dispensaries?
Well, there's a number up there. Actually, dispensary is kind of a misnomer, because there's no legal dispensaries in Oregon yet. There's no legal provision for exchanging for consideration, money for medicine. The only time and place that really can happen is between a patient and the grower. So a patient can reimburse the grower for expenses that the grower has, a light bill, you know, anything that the grower can produce paper, then they can, write me a check or give me cash or whatever. It's the labor that the patient can't reimburse the grower for. And one card holder can't buy it from another. It has to be gifted. See? So all these situations where they're operating up in Portland, some of them work pretty much like a dispensary. You go in, you see the menu, I'll take 10 grams of Thunder Hump, and thank you very much, you know. At some point, the places that have been busted did stuff like that. At some point, the authority's going to try to send an informant in to go through that process and say, yeah, it's just just money on the table and you take the medicine right there, you know. Some places have clubs, they have cafes, they have cooperatives, they have a membership process. You'll pay at the door, and then once you get inside, there's a bunch of medicine there and help yourself. And like us, we're more cooperative. You know, on Wednesday nights, we let folks know to come here. You need medicine, fine. There you go. If you can make a donation, great. There's the can. You know, but as far as somebody has some excess medicine, and there's a patient there that needs some. You're not allowed to sell it here. You know, that would put the person who's letting you use the building at risk, because then a criminal act is happening on the premises, and they can mess with their license with the city and so forth. But those folks they're on their own. I mean, they'll transact like that, and we inform them of the law, and hopefully they'll follow. But if they do choose to do that and then leave the premises, it's up to them. They're the ones that run risk of, being prosecuted by the state even because for possession or whatever. Because now that they've, exchanged money for medicine, it's not covered by OMA and so forth. And they would then, want to go into court and say, listen, I wasn't buying it. He gifted me the medicine, and I gifted him the money. If he didn't have the medicine, I was going to give him the money anyway. It wasn't based on that to make, to explain. But you'd still have to go to court and explain that, and say.
Okay, well, I know of a person who grows, and he was bragging somewhere about how he made $85,000 that year.
In Oregon.
In Oregon. So he apparently whoever he
Right.
gave this, they gifted him this money. Do you think that's how it happened?
He probably went in and networked with folks that were not card holders, and probably did it in a manner that was flat out
Illegal?
dealing.
He's illegal.
Yes.
I wonder how can he.
To do it on a donation basis to cancel them out and hope folks make a donation over on that side would probably not get you that kind of money, that kind of return. Only when you're, say, if you put some money here on the thing, I'll hand you a bag, and there's not really a lot of complaining or negotiating on it and stuff.
Well, I think
like
he
a
sells for
black
around,
marketeer.
I think he sells it for
Whereas,
50 an ounce.
oh, okay.
A little under an ounce, so that if you're caught with that, it's just a misdemeanor.
Right, that's the Oregon law.
So if you
outside
have
of
a
Omaha.
card, how much are you allowed to carry?
24 ounces actually. 4 ounces for each plant that you have, and you're allowed 6 plants. So now that's for you, the patient, and it involves everybody. So your grower and your caregiver are included in that. 24 ounces between the three of you. You can't have 24 ounces for you, and your caregiver has 24 ounces for you, and your grower is keeping 24 ounces for you too. That's not legal. That's not what that possession limit is. That's how that works. Same with the plants, same with the garden. You can't have 2 gardens. You can have a part of the garden at your caregiver's house and another part of the garden at your grower's place. The gal here was talking about having 1 plant. When she gets that grower, she's going to want that plant to go there, because you can't be growing then if you have a grower. You can't even have the plant. Well, I suppose technically a baby you could.
When I had it transferred my grower to a person in Cascadia. I wrote that I had the babies and she had the mother plants that were going to be harvested. I had next year's crop. And at that time, they didn't say anything. That's one way you can split them up. But you have to have it underneath 12 inches square.
Yeah, you're allowed 6 mature plants. You're allowed 18 immature plants, as defined by height and diameter.
Under 12 inches, then?
Yeah.
Right. So you can have 18 under 12. And again, this. So you could have a number of the 6 plants and 18 babies in transit, for example. You could have 3 of them at the garden site and 9 babies there, and your caregiver could have gone and gotten 9 more babies and 3 plants and be in transit with them. Or you could have had one that somebody dropped them off and your care, some combination therein, which 6 plants for the patient.
Who created these laws that you can have this much, and this much?
That was something that we did back in '98 when we originally got the law, and in 2005 there was a change in that it was like 7 plants total, 3 and 4 immature and mature, and in 2005 they changed it to 6 plants mature with 18 immatures defined by that height thing.
And did all that go through legislature to be the...
Yeah, '98 we did. That was an initiative process. The people did, and in 2005 was something that happened in the legislature. Like what's happening now with 281, and there's a couple of other bills. There's one for dispensaries to create and set up to allow folks to exchange money for medicine, under these conditions, under these terms, limits, and so forth.
How's that looking?
It's right now in committee, and we need folks to get on the committee to get it going, and then your legislators to say, hey, it's coming down the pike.
So how does Oregon get I know this one fellow that's in a nursing home because he can't stand by himself, he can't get himself in and out of bed, and they give him a marijuana pill, so where do they get that marijuana?
The Marinol,
I don't know what
see,
it's called, it's just...
if it's the legal one that they're probably talking about, it's called Marinol, is one of the artificial cannabis pills. Yeah. It's they tried to create an artificial version of THC. They got the idea that THC was what it was all about, the buzz, the high, so they tried to create something artificial of it. And for me, I think it's rather sad that mainstream media hasn't caught on to this scam of marijuana has no medical value, but here's an artificial version of this thing that you can take instead. Besides, so they skip right over that kind of bit of illogic. But that's what I think you're talking about is the marijuana pill. Now,
Pharmaceutical.
a pharmaceutical substitute version of it.
Yeah.
And as we're finding out now, it's not the THC, it's the cannabinoids, cannabinols, and there's another thing that they're finding is called terpenes, and that's what the stuff is. In Israel, they've cut the crap, and they allowing it for their Israel has a medical cannabis law program for their citizens. A key component was using it for their soldiers for their PTSD. So I hope folks out there are listening and contacting your legislators and getting in on it. And for those worried about the religious aspects, they've got the priest in there. It's kosher, the medicine, and they probably give them a lecture on distance allowing it to separate you and the Lord. So they've got all the bases covered there, and I hope we take a page out of their book and get more on that, along that road.
I know my healing oil's been blessed by my priest.
So same difference, I think, there.
Yeah. Passionate.
common sense too. Yeah. So there's those artificial things, and it's part of the fight to make sure that isn't the only things we're offered. Now, so on the dispensaries, on your options for resources, Portland, Salem, in fact, across the state, grab one of the Oregon Cannabis Connections, which has a bunch of information there on that. All the places that advertise to offer, help folks to find you a grower, to network into Medicine Now, in their various plans. Definitely call, email, or otherwise communicate before you drive down there, and before you, how they say, invest any funding in any particular thing. Make sure what all the things are. We've had these folks say that they had to pay this, and they paid that, and then they paid that, and it was like, what's the deal here? At least let me know up front, and not, leave me along one stage or another.
There's a few sites, I was perusing the web and looking for dispensaries or suppliers, and there's a few that advertise on the web, and there's also some deliveries.
Right, yeah. We're trying to keep tabs on them. I forget what page. You'll end up at, I think Pot Locator is one. And yeah, there's a couple of places that deliver here in Salem. So grab the Oregon Cannabis Connection, visit our website, mercycenters.org. I
Did you
believe.
get your Oregon Cannabis Connection?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. She applied for a card this last weekend, so I'll be her caregiver and grower.
Yeah.
So we're just brand new here.
Okay. So yeah, they'll end up with 2 cards then, basically,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's how you'll proceed. You'll take care of the grow and help with that, and be in possession, and the patient likewise, and be in possession, helping with the grow, but be also medicating, consuming, and so we talked about the starting to get your card, and folks don't need help with that per se, and then the folks that are looking for a grower versus growing. Oh, and resources, of course, in the short term, finding Medicine Now. You've got your card, Medicine Now, and then long-term growing, finding a grower. So we talked about those resources, and make sure that folks need medicine tonight, that we talk off camera, and make sure that we network you up to resources. Nobody leaves here empty-handed, regardless of your financial situation. So, as far as growing, then the decision is kind of, do you have the 4 pillars of your grow? Do you have the space? Do you have the juice, the electricity, or sunlight, blah blah blah? It's like earth, air, fire, and water. Do you have the ground, the soil thingy, and do you have the water, coming into where the grow is happening, as it were? So. Of course, then a major determination on that is if it's indoor, outdoor, or some combination there.
Ventilation.
Right. If you're indoor, ventilation becomes a bigger issue than say if you're outdoor. But that's something that folks generally don't consider in the outdoor grow situation, is making sure that you've got air flow. You don't want just a fan in there blowing it around. You want the in with the good air, out and with the bad air. The stale,
fresh air then.
Right. And of course, then that's where, if you want to make sure that you've got your smell discipline, you want it up and out. You don't want to just out to your next door neighbor there, and possibly look at some odor desensitizing too. Particularly, you get down to the very end of the growth cycle there, it gets really.
What would you say the cost to, an approximate cost would be to start 6 plants and have just 6 plants? And illumination and for indoors?
The lights are a couple of thousand for the ballast and the bulbs and everything. You're gonna want to hang them up, some hardware. There's the tables, your buckets, your soil. We probably use rock wool or
Rock
clay
wool.
balls.
Are there any
Would you say? I would say 3,000.
Yeah, if you had 3,000, you can make a nice indoor garden.
What would be the minimum? I mean, it's like you want sodium halide lights, for example, if you're indoor.
Well, you wanted two types, the sodium and then the metal hydrogen,
Okay, yeah.
because one's for growing, to make the plants as big as 3 feet, 4 feet high, if you're, and the other one is when you cycle down to 12 hours of light. So the bulbs have different colors. One imitates springtime, the other imitates fall time. You would have it on 18 to 24 hours, springtime. You would have it on 12 hours. And you got a receiving bucket, or you have a bucket that recirculates the water. A 5-gallon.
In a typical hydro setup, which is probably what you're looking at, although they could be hand water, I suppose. You've got a table with your buckets on it. You've got a container, like so a table set here, a container here with your water and foods in it. It's got a pump set up with tubes running to each of the plants on the table. So the pump will run, fill it in for a time, and then the water will drain back into the container.
So this is hydroponically?
This is a hydroponic setup we're describing here.
Ah.
not recommended to grow in soil indoors, or is that?
Well, you got your drainage issue with it. I suppose you could have them on the floor with the plates on them, and then they each have little pots and all.
Well, you would have the plants on a table where you would catch the thing. You wouldn't be watering the plants twice, 3 times a day as if you were using Rockwool hydro balls. There is Fox Farm, which is a dirt, which is a very good dirt. You have to read, they have different types. You wouldn't have to water as much, but you would have a table.
Yeah, that is that
And-
trade-off though. That
Yeah.
table that you'd need to make it out there, and the pumping and the la versus all those plants, and you hand water them and watch that. It depends on your floor surface.
Yeah. Any suggested reading on this? I mean, we're covering a lot of terminology.
Mhm.
Look in your computer. There's the
The Oregon Cannabis Connection is what I would start with. We have a couple of additions there, some of which are focusing on the grow aspect, beginners, outdoors, indoors. So, and we'll talk with some more with the folks here, with some of the other growers. We can get a more accurate number, because one of the things on growing indoors is your not just the type of lighting, but the power, 400 watts or 1,000, see, and that's going to change your pricing there. But you've only got 6 plants, you probably get a couple 400 watts. We'll talk with the experts, and they can, plus any things that we're not covering here. Like I said, you want to make sure you got that airflow for that inside thing, so make sure that the room's got that.
Or outside.
Well, if you're outside, you generally don't have to worry about it. So just like the lighting and the water and all, but you're
Make sure you have enough sun and not crowded by
you got
people.
temperature fluctuations, more of a concern outdoor versus indoor. Although if you're quote indoors at your outside barn or something like that, it's unheated. That's another thing. And then with the gardening aspects, your temperature stuff, your temperature fluctuations, your molds, your bugs, cross pollination outdoors. You know, there's a lot of other folks with outdoor gardens and stuff. Who knows? There's some feral hemp going around. You don't have to worry about that as much like Illinois. They got a bunch of hemp going around out there in the Midwest, and your outdoor grow, it runs a risk. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that growing on the side of the road.
Mhm. Well, we'll see some more, hopefully.
That's a bad thing.
Okay, we're going to wrap up. So we're going to say goodbye to the folks out there in TV land. Again, this is the Mercy weekly meeting. Come on down here and see us at 1745 Capitol Street, Northeast, every Wednesday, 7 to 9. Visit our website, mercycenters.org, or give us a call at 503-363-4588. Thanks, and we'll see you later.
Thank you. You want to say anything before I turn it off, Glenn?
Yes, good night.
Good night. God bless you all, every single one of you.